Good day, students. In this video, we will be discussing the basic listening skills. So why do we need to study this one? Why do we need to incorporate this topic in our purposive communication? We know that our goal in purposive communication, for with the previous videos that we had, the goal is for you, the students, to be an effective communicator. You cannot be an effective communicator if you don't know how to listen. Before we start the discussion proper, I'm going to share to you this quote from an unknown author. And it says, "The basic building block of good communications is the feeling that every human being is unique and of value." So when you say basic building block, the same as when you're building a house, the basic foundation, the basic building block is the hollow blocks, right? That's why it's called blocks, hollow blocks, because that composes the house. In good communication, the basic building block is the feeling that every human being is unique and of value. When you see every human being feel that they are unique and they're of value, that everyone has some story to tell, even you are unique and you are there, you can provide value to everyone. Listening, we listen every day, right? But the question is, are you a good listener, or do you know someone who is a good listener? Can you think who is the first person that you think of when I ask you if you know someone who is a good listener? So listening is very important. It is one of the most vital skills that you need to have if you want to communicate effectively. So studies have shown that most listeners retain less than 50% of what they hear. So 50%, half lang sa gistorya sa tao ang ma-retain. I wonder how many percent is retained in you with our lecture discussions. I hope that it's more. Or the good thing about this lecture video discussions online is that if you really want to learn, if you're a good student that you value learning, you can rewind or listen to it again so that you'll understand. So this is the difference between face to face and online learning. You can rewind and listen again the videos, the lecture videos, if you didn't grasp it the first time. But of course, there are also different advantages and disadvantages in face to face and online learning. Okay, so in listening, it allows you to decode the message that you are receiving. So remember this communication process illustration. The listener decodes or interprets the message. The listener, the receiver, cannot decode the message if he or she doesn't listen well. So listening is very important in the to communicate effectively. When you aren't certain of the message that you have heard the first time, listening well allows you to ask the questions that will clarify the message. So you can ask questions to clarify. Okay, why do we listen? Is it important to listen? Well, it's a no-brainer question, right? We listen every day. So we listen for multiple reasons. Number one is to build relationships. Whatever relationships you are in a romantic relationships or in your family, friends, business relationship, or whatever. If you're a good listener, you can build good relationships. Also, you will listen to understand others. Also, we listen to be entertained because when we interpret the message, if the message is good and humorous or funny, then we are entertained. Also, we listen to learn, to show empathy. Empathy is putting yourself in the shoes of others. And then to gather information, we listen to gather information, and we listen to help us avoid misunderstanding just can just make life more conflict free in general. Who doesn't like a life that is conflict free? Have you experienced being in conflict? When you're in conflict with someone, you don't communicate with that someone, right? Because dili mo magkasinabtanay. There's no mutual understanding. And do you want to wake up having that grudge feeling. So wala, no? Communication is really very important. And sometimes if you don't want to say anything, just listen. Or if you don't know what to say, listen. How are you as a listener? Are you a good listener? Do you know how you are when you are listening to someone? So self-awareness, that's self-awareness. If you are aware how you are when you are listening to someone. So becoming aware of your own behavior, feelings, and habits when listening. So notice the following when you are communicating with someone. Notice your body language, how you are. Are you focused? Are you paying attention, or are you moving around or sitting slouching, or do you make eye contact, or do you look away when you talk to someone? Are you following every word, or your mind is wandering around? No, wandering around. Someone's talking to you and then your mind is looking forward to going out or to doing something. You're not focused on the present conversation. Are you just like now? Maybe you're thinking of your other subject requirements. You're not focused on this lecture. Or are you planning what you will say in return? Say when you're communicating with a friend, you or someone that you're interested with, you are not paying attention with what the person is saying because you're always thinking of what you're going to say next. So are you that kind of person? Are you that kind of a listener? So being self-aware is very important, so that if you know how you are when you are listening, you can assess if you are good or not. If you are not, then you can improve. But if you're good, you can maintain or maybe be better or improve pa. So it's like self-assessment, no? So be aware. Be aware of how you are in when you listen to someone. In this video, you can see that it is an example of a bad listening skills, right? Why? According to M. Scott Peck, he said that you cannot truly listen to anyone and do anything else at the same time. Like if you're listening to something, to a music, and then someone is talking to you, well, you can't be able to understand what the other person is saying. So you need to focus. You need to only be listening to one person at a time, one at a time. So I hope that you are listening to this and not watching TV or something else. Give your focus to one source of message. Okay, active listening. What do you mean by active listening? It means being as attentive and involved in the conversation during the times that you are listening as when you are speaking. So it's active listening. It's not dead listening. So active listening, you are engaged, you are listening, you are grasping what the other person is saying, and also speaking, responding to the person who is talking to you. So paying close attention to the speaker to understand the whole message he or she is trying to convey. And this requires concentration and practice. Practice and practice, especially when you are in your job interview. So you have to be an active listener so that you can respond correctly. Okay, how to become an active listener. So for us to be able to have an effective communication, we need to be an active listener. So there are 5 key aspects of becoming an active listener. Number 1, pay close attention. We will discuss it one by one. So number 2, demonstrate physically that you are listening. And 3, check for understanding. 4, don't interrupt. And 5, respond appropriately. So bear this in mind, the 5 key aspects of becoming an active listener. So if you are this, you have this all 5, then you are an active listener. You are a good listener. Okay, the first aspect is pay close attention. So how do you pay close attention to someone speaking, who is speaking? So give the speaker your undivided attention. So it's undivided, meaning your 100% attention. You're not looking on your phone, you're not watching anyone, you're not listening to music. You 100% paying attention to the speaker. And then you let the speaker know that you are listening by using acknowledgments. So, using acknowledgments, verbal and non-verbal acknowledgments, like nodding and nodding, meaning that you are listening to that person. You look the speaker in the eyes. You make eye to eye contact. That may require practice because I know for us Filipinos, it's difficult for us to create eye to eye contact, especially the young ones, because you feel ashamed. But looking to a person in the eyes is a sign of respect, and also it means that you are paying close attention to the speaker. Next is stop mental chatter, meaning whatever that is in your head while listening to the speaker, remove that. Like if it's not related to the conversation, then stop it. Then don't start preparing your response or rebuttal while the other person is talking. No, sometimes we respond. We just wait for the we just respond without even we respond without even understanding what the person is talking. So let the speaker finish speaking before you butt in. And then make sure your environment doesn't distract you. So if you want to have a good conversation, good communication, then the environment must be conducive to that. There's no noise from the environment. Okay, notice the speaker's body language and tone of voice. And if you're in a group, avoid side conversations. This is very common in the classroom settings. Before, if you can remember the face-to-face lecture, that while the teacher is speaking, the some of the students are talking on the side. So that is not paying close attention with undivided attention. Demonstrate physically that you are listening. So, demonstrate in your body that you are listening. So, how do you do that? You nod from time to time when appropriate. When appropriate. Dili pod kay sige ra ka ganad. Bisag wala ka kasabot. You nod because you agree and you listen, you understand what the speaker is saying. Another is use appropriate facial expression. So when it's funny, it glows in your it shows in your face. If it's sad or if you don't agree with it, it shows in your face. Monitor your own body language. Be sure you remain open and relaxed rather than close and tense. So that's why it's important to know the self-awareness is important. If you know how you are when you're listening. So look at the video. The listener, the Asian lady, is listening to the African American lady, and they're both open and relaxed. They are nodding. It's not tense conversation. And then use small comments like yes, right, right, something like that. So it demonstrates that you are listening. Okay, check for understanding. So how to check for understanding? You would say what I hear you saying is, or in our dialect would be, so ang imong pasabot kani mo ni ana. So that is an example of check for understanding. You summarize what you've heard occasionally. Okay, don't interrupt. There is nothing good that comes from interrupting the speaker. So you will only be limiting your chance of understanding the message because you won't hear it. You won't hear it at all. And the speaker will just get frustrated. So don't interrupt. Rule of the thumb, let the speaker finish his or her sentence or message before you interrupt. Well, that's why kung mag-away, interrupt jud yun. That's bad communication and the more na mag-away. So you let the other person finish the message before you interrupt. Okay, 5, respond appropriately. You'll able to respond appropriately if you're able to grasp the message from the speaker. So for you to be able to grasp the message from the speaker, you have to listen and understand. No, decode the message correctly. So understand what he or she is trying to say. You can ask questions to clarify those areas you didn't understand and reply appropriately. When expressing your thoughts, be honest and open. So if you don't really understand that, then say so. I really don't understand what you were saying. Can you please elaborate? Or it's not, say, if someone is talking about a certain word that you don't understand, then you can ask the person, what do you mean by tachycardia? Bef- okay, so you be honest if you don't understand. It doesn't mean that a good communication and effective communication doesn't always mean that na grasp ni mo tanan ang message, but also there is an exchange of information. If you don't understand, then clarify. And be respectful. Dili kay arrogant when you're asking a question. Also, be thorough. So, like it's concise. Be thorough. Okay, when you respond. All right. Okay. Again, so there are five key aspects of becoming an active listener. So for you to be a good communicator, you need to be a good listener. You need to be an active listener, and an active listener pays pays close attention. Demonstrate physically what you are that you are listening. Like you make eye to eye contact. Okay? Check for understanding. You ask questions or you nod if you do understand. Do not interrupt. Okay? Let the person finish the message and then respond appropriately. You can respond appropriately if you understand the message well. If you don't understand, then ask the speaker of to clarify things if it's vague. All right. So I hope that you remember these key aspects and start being an active listener. It takes practice because as early as now, if you have these key aspects of becoming an active listener, then it will greatly help you when you find for a job in the future. And also it will help you in your work in the future if you're an active listener. Again, the one of the reasons why we listen is to build relationship, and in the build relationships, so whatever relationships that you want, may it be romantic or work relationships, you need to be an active listener to make it work.